Freedom brand is a component of many things. We have around 5,000 customers that choose the Freedom over. The successful of our brand is good work of team. 2018 we have concentrated our activity on the next level. The attention that we have on the prints and embroidering that we do on our apparel, to be able to keep 100% production in Italy. This, I think, is a mix that creates the successful of the brand. My goal is never stop innovation.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Silverstone, the host of round 4 of season 2 of the European Endurance Championship, hosted by Racing Series here on Le Mans Ultimate. My name is Edward Hunter. Alongside in the commentary box is Mr. Daniele Brambilla, and of course our broadcast directors, our hosts, Mariano Callo, Louis Gaspar, and of course Gianluca Scalvini, I think, who's also there in the background helping out on the production side today. And it's lovely to have them as always. So, Daniele, welcome to a very, very wet Silverstone, where qualifying is just wrapping up as we speak. Of course, a relatively new addition to Le Mans Ultimate, but a classic circuit, of course. We recognise it as affectionately in the UK as the birthplace of modern British motor racing, because it wasn't the first circuit in the UK, because I think Brooklands in Surrey, down in my neck of the woods, sort of takes that honour. But yeah, Silverstone around since the 1940s, of course. It does have a rich history. 3.6 miles, the circuit, as it is in the modern layout. And 3 rounds so far in EEC. We had a dramatic GD3 finish in Bahrain, but in Hypercar, it's Christian Margera who just keeps racking up the wins, and by seemingly bigger and bigger margins then. So this should be a really, really interesting one, because we're kind of going into a bit of the unknown here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here again for round 4. Absolutely. You talked about it. You commentated over just 1 week ago. That finish in GD3 was something else, and the results stayed. So Vianney actually took away the win with, I guess it was a bit of a controversial move into the penultimate corner in Bahrain on Palumbo, but the stewards said that it was fine, and the results actually stayed.
Well, I was thinking it was more going to be the incident just before that, through 9 and 10, where they almost bumped each other off the road.
No, that was fine. That was fine. We called it, right? It was just street justice.
True, yeah. You see, there's no street circuits, I think, in Le Mans Ultimate, but you see, well, I guess Circuit de la Sarthe technically counts because it's a village circuit.
It probably does. It probably does, yeah.
Yeah, sort of. It certainly uses part of the old Le Mans village, that's for sure. Il Pizu 4708 asks, wet race. Well, given what we saw on stream, I think we'll have to wait and see. And there we go. The rain has immediately cleared up from what we saw in the second that I started that sentence.
The track still seems wet, though.
Yeah, it could well be that this is a race where people start on the wet tyres and then transition to the dries as it goes on. And we'll have to see if they decide to play that into the pit strategy, because we haven't really had any wet races so far in the short history of this championship on Le Mans Ultimate. So it's another factor to look at. And you can see there, is that the number 44 of our championship leader? I don't think on the front row, but we're about to see the starting grid, or at least an empty box where the starting grid would ordinarily be. So we may have to play it by visuals then. I think they are working very, very hard to give us the starting grid, and we may just have to look at the timing tower instead and try and translate that to you all.
Yeah, I want to say Malgera probably took pole, looking at where he is.
Yeah, it looks like Malgera and Rokon on the front row, but there's somebody in front of them. Is that our second place finisher from last time?
No, it's Bortolin P2.
Bortolin, yes. Bortolin P2. Right,
then
so
it
they're all
disappears.
flicking on and off the grid, so they can't decide what tyres they want to start on. Everybody realise they might want to try and gamble on the dries then, but there you go. It is definitely Malgera on pole position. A lot of the hypercar runners are a bit blurry to me, but I can see the GT3 runners on that at least. And it looks like it's the Mercedes there that's on pole position, interestingly. Is that somebody we've seen before?
I believe it should be.
It's Ricardiel. Oh, it's a Lexus of Ricardiel, but it's Kaneshi.
Yeah, it's Kaneski. Yeah.
Kaneski.
Yeah, I
Kaneshi?
apologize. We're definitely having some issues here. It's a bit of a work in progress right now.
Yeah, might be a longer formation lap because they're on the middle of the Wellington Straight, so I think they would let them go on the Hamilton Straight, which is the start-finish, which is most of the lap that they have to do then. So that should give us enough time to go through the grid. It is Christian Malgera on pole position from Matteo Bortolin on the front row. Paolo Penimpede will start third with Michele Rokon in fourth. Then it's Federico Suave fifth and Bruschke rounding out our top six. That's the only 6 hypercars we have here today. Meanwhile, Ricardiello is on pole position in GT3 with Canton, it looks like, in second. Rabiti, it's not Kaneshi, it is Canton. Davide Canton.
Okay.
That's the problem with the 3 initials.
Correct.
So,
No, I mean, technically they should be fixed, but I just got confused. But I think this is the start, because
Yes.
this is the actual finish.
okay, they're going to start on the old start-finish straight. So we've got Rabiti and Secrera on the second row with Zitello Viani, our winner last time out, on row 3. And then it's Palumbo and, what on earth is that name? Smith Adama and
It's
row
Smith
4.
Adams.
Smith
There you go.
Adams, there we go. So the race begins then, and Malgera briefly had to defend a bit as Penimpede made a great start to get alongside and ahead of Bortolin into Copsten. So yeah, Malgera was absolutely on his haunches there and was able to take the lead at the start. Ricardiello and Canton are going side by side as that looks like Suave has completely missed the start and gotten caught in the middle of the GT3 leaders there as Ricardiello, Canton and Sequeira almost go side by side before reasserting the order then. So it is the Lexus leading the Mercedes, leading the BMW there, and you can see Canton having to do a little bit of defense here as the Italian Sequeira and Rabiti are looking very, very menacing. Sequeira's had such a strong start to this season. He's trying to go into P2, into Stowe, and the visibility is going to be very, very bad on this first lap, but they're all tucked up together, but Sequeira's got the inside. He's got the move done, and he forces himself ahead, does the Spaniard, so that Canton can't get the inside for club, essentially, which is this chicane that you see them going through now at the end of the lap. So the start finish line will actually be just after this corner down the Hamilton Straight. So we started at the old sort of 2009 start finish line, as we see Pagani defending from the is that the Carloni Racing of that's not Zitello that's all over the back. No, Zitello is Virtual Drives Alliance, isn't he? So who's the Carloni guy that's all over the back?
It doesn't help that they get hidden by the water spray thrown up at the car in front. This is back to Canton as Sequeira went straight. No, it's not Sequeira.
No.
Someone went there. It was Smith Adams. It was Smith Adams that went wide into what I would call turn 3, but it actually isn't turn 3.
Yeah, I think it's Village. There's that first sort of tight
Village,
corner.
Village.
Yeah, Village followed by the Loop, which is the same, but they call it the arena section, I think, as they're now going down the Wellington Straight, and Zitello is all over the back of Simone Rabiti in the fight for P4 behind Davide Canton then, and Canton could well find himself struggling to stay on the podium then, given that Rabiti and Zitello seem to have decent pace here. Here's Mattia Bortolin in what I've affectionately called the Bertie Bassett's car, with its striking black yellow, bright pink and bright blue livery. It's like a box of sweeties. You never know quite what you're going to get from Mattia Bortolin, but he was so impressive last night to beat Michele Rocon. He's ahead of Rocon again, but Pede has actually made a brilliant start. But they are all being dropped by Margera at the moment at the front in Hypercar. I think Margera is nearly 2 seconds already in the lead after the first lap.
Yeah, beautiful start by Margera with nothing new under the sun, or in this case, in the rain. With Penny Pettit, though, holding on very well on that P2, and Bortolin maybe just waiting a little bit more. And Rocon, I have to say, very disappointed by his quality P4. And then obviously Bruschi and Soave rounding up the top 6, which is actually the extent of the hypercars that we have on track today. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about the GT3s, and as I usually do, about the strategy. I know it's a little bit early maybe, but I don't know, genuinely don't know how long a stint would be in the wet. It's definitely going to be a little bit longer because you use less fuel, but exactly I would not be able to tell you how long they would go. I think around 50 to 53 minutes. So it's going to be a very long stint for cars that were usually, we used to see going very long, like Sakara, for example. He usually goes for these very alternate strategies, I guess you could call them. And we'll see what he does now that he's sitting behind Ricciardiello. And, I got confused there. But yeah, and also seems, look at the sky. Look at the sky. It seems to be brightening up a little bit.
Yeah, certainly this spray that's coming out the back of these cars might well reduce if the weather stays as it is. But look, it's sort of sunshine in one direction, dark clouds in another. So it could yet be wet tyres all the way through to the end if the rain returns like it did in qualifying then, as we see Zitella continuing to shadow Ribiti. But it's Ricciardiello in the other Simframe Lexus that is still holding on to the lead from Sequeira, but they are breaking away from Canton. Did you see into the Vale and Club chicane on that last lap? The Mercedes was really struggling to get turned in, and he seemed to lose a bit of time there. So Ribiti's now all over the back of him, and Sequeira has now got Ricciardiello all to himself then, which should be fascinating. Sequeira looks like he's pushing a lot more in this first stint than we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing him play the long game and trying to get the fuel and tyres to last near the end of the first stint to sort of pay off later in the race, essentially. But yeah, as we see, wet tyres, unsurprisingly, on all four corners of all the cars, which absolutely makes sense in these conditions. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who, if anybody, is the first to take the gamble and try and go for the dry. Sequeira here looks like he is really pushing to take the lead early on, and Ricciardiello may well have to get defensive before too long here, because Sequeira, his pace just looks absolutely electric at the present moment. He made short work of Canton, and that Lexus has held up a bit better than Mercedes in these conditions, but nonetheless, the BMW just looks so much more confident at this phase.
It's just an easy car to drive, the BMW. I mean, nothing to take away from Abel, but yeah, the BMW is just the car to be in these conditions. And I think maybe Canton, maybe Canton is banking on the track getting drier at the end, so that maybe he's running a little bit less downforce. I wonder if he's like trying to gamble on that.
Yeah, you see Sequeira through the loop actually being a little bit held up there as we go to an all BMW battle between Pagani and Gandosi. So Andrea Gandosi, who we've not talked about it too much, but he's another of those Timeli ERT drivers along with Pagani. It's good to see him. It's nice as a change to see them fighting each other rather than sharing a car together. So they're right together on track, which shows they're pretty evenly matched pair. And you see there Gandosi flashing the headlights as if to say to Nicola Pagani, let's not fight, because you can see ninth place ahead of them starting to escape up the road. I think the points only go down to 10th as well. So this is really the fight for the final points paying position. And Pedro Amado is only about a second and a half behind them as well. So they can't really afford to waste time fighting each other, because it could see the Mercedes up the road just disappear.
And they will probably be in the same TeamSpeak or in the same voice chat, screaming at each other, saying, let's not fight, please.
But I think they're going out from different angles, because Gandosi is saying, let's not fight, stay behind me. And Pagani's saying, let's not fight, let me through.
That's true.
Anyway, this is Nate Smith-Adams, who's, name, now that it's not completely pixelated, it's much easier name to read, funnily enough. But yeah, one of our British drivers in the field in his home race, of course, trying to fight Vianney, our winner from last time out for that 6th place. And then there's Zitello, Rabiti, and Canton right up the road. As this is very late on the brakes from Nate Smith-Adams there, and him and Vianney in the same car, of course. So it's an all-Aston battle for P6 there. And Vianney very nearly left the door open. He's lucky he got on the power in time and found the grip where he did there, because Smith-Adams, he had a bit of a moment early in the race through Abbey, turn 1, didn't he? Where he just rejoined. Oh, no, Village, sorry.
Village.
Yeah, it was turn 3. And then since then, though, he's regrouped a bit, and Vianney has looked just a little bit vulnerable in this phase of the race then. So Smith-Adams maybe got a better wet setup than Nico Vianney.
Probably does, but I'm very surprised about the Astons. I thought, I mean, generally speaking, for how the car is in real life, it's very pointy. It has a very nice front, very direct, and which is technically what would be very useful in wet conditions. But yeah.
Here we go then. Sequeira's got the run down the Wellington Straight. He's got the inside for Brooklands then, and is there going to be anything that Ricciardiello can do to come back at him in the Lexus? No, not. So the Superior, he got the slipstream really, and that was what helped set up that move very early on, coming out of Aintree then. Ricciardiello now has got to hope he can keep with the BMW. You can see there's a lot less spray now as the track is rapidly drying. You may not be able to see the sun very clearly, the typical British weather, overcast, muggy conditions, but...
Do you even know what the sun is?
I can vaguely remember what it looks like. It's a big yellow thing, isn't it? It's a big yellow ball in space, several million miles away. But nonetheless, it does have a bit of an effect on us. Yes, as now we cut back to Pagani, still fighting away with Gandosi, his teammate, essentially. Although I do wonder how much teammate status really matters in this championship, where it seems to be every man for themselves, isn't it? Or every driver for themselves, I should say, the way they've been racing so far this season. But yeah, crucially, Sequeira's now got the lead. He's going to try and increase his stranglehold at the front of this race. And Ricciardiello still within 3/10, but you do sense him and Kaneshi maybe on the bit of a back foot, Canton, sorry, maybe on the back foot here. Don't know why I keep getting mixed up with Kaneshi from EES. I don't think it's done a single round.
I think it's because I said it once. I planted the seed.
Bortolin here, as we saw on Bahrain, starting to be caught by Michele Rocon, who I think is about 6/10 behind him and continuing to close. Look through the exit here of Maggots, Beckett's, and now into Chapel. Rocon just seems to have so much more grip and confidence in that Simframe Ferrari than Bortolin in the Birdie Bassett's Ferrari. I still haven't figured out what team that is.
Yeah, the Hypercars dancing around in these conditions. They generally like to slide in the dry, so expect them to slide even more in the wet.
Yeah, we see a couple of comments here. Surface still looks wet, but it will be drying out pretty quickly, says the Pablos 221. Giardi98 says it should be raining soon, as I am told. Interesting. And then Renato Vigliotti says piove in Inghilterra strano. So I don't know what that means. I hope that wasn't something really, really explicit and rude.
No. He said that basically it's raining in Great Britain.
England.
That's fine.
Yeah. It's definitely to be expected. And Malguera, I think, has predicted this because look at the gap he's got on a Pen and Pede, 6.5 seconds already then, with we're not even 15 minutes into this race, and Malguera is looking to exceed that 30-second margin that he won in Bahrain by. It seems that every race he wins by 10 more seconds, isn't it? And with the rain affecting the pace here, it could well be, unless he maybe has got the setup or gets the tyre change wrong. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out then. And it's interesting. Sequeira's gained another 3/10 on Ricciardiello, but the gaps at the front in GD3 still pretty close all the way up to Zitello, who we're riding on board with. And you can see the virtual entry, essentially. Zitello at the back of this train has saved a percentage more, but it's all still a little bit marginal here, and it does look like Sequeira's maybe used slightly more than those behind him, but yeah, then again, he is the first on the road, so it's slightly sort of deceptive there, as you can see. Zitello then. Go on.
Still very even Stevens with the virtual energy. I think it's quite early to talk about it now. Oh, as you could see that was Zitiello looking for the wet patches on the straight, which means that the track is visibly getting drier. Well, visibly and physically getting drier as well.
And that also tells us that Zitello is trying to keep the tyres wet and stop them falling apart, essentially. As they,
yeah.
So you can see the windscreen wiper is still working, so it has actually just started dripping down again with rain. But how long this will last, how strong it will last, whether the rain will just evaporate, remains to be seen. And now you can see his opposition in front of him are starting to follow suit as well and go all the way to the unused part of the track, the inside. The only person who's really used it was Sequeira. I mean, he made that overtake a couple of laps ago. And now you can actually see Rabiti starting to challenge Kaneshi into Brooklands, Luffield and Woodcote as well. So, yeah, it definitely looks like the Mercedes of Canton, is struggling the most here.
It probably is. I guess it's not the right car to be in right now. But no, I mean, to be fair, the gaps are fine. I think they seem to be holding on quite well. But again, going back to what we read from the chat, I believe it was Giardinetto, correct? It was Garden. I don't know his name in the chat, but I've been looking at the sky since he said that, and to be fair, even though it might still be drizzling right now, I don't see how it can stop raining. Can it go back to rain?
Yeah, certainly not raining hard enough then. And the GD3s, it's all a matter of who blinks first at this phase as Rabiti is lining up Canton for that podium position then. And he's trying to make it 2 sim frames on the podium. One Lexus in the front of this battle and the other behind the Mercedes, looking for the inside. Again, it sort of has to get offline where there's a little bit less grip into Vale and Club, and you can see the number 46 tucked in right behind Davide Canton then, as Canton goes a little bit wide out of the last corner, but does get it just turned in to the apex. As we've seen an ad for Las Vegas, that seems quite topical, the Formula One at the moment, and you can see up that front there, Ricciardiello actually is closed back in on Sequeira here, as it does look like the windscreen wipers have stopped moving around. Very late on the brakes there from Simone Rabiti. He just avoids crashing into the back of Davide Canton, and certainly Salvatore Zitello will be eyeing this with great interest, as too will Vianney and Smith Adams, who are continuing to fight with each other. Palumbo is starting to become part of that fight for P6 as well. So it definitely looks like any small mistake here in these tricky, sort of uncertain conditions where the weather and the track have not made up their mind. You can actually see the rain start to fall down slightly heavier now. So
yeah, even the sky is getting darker now.
Yeah, you can
all
see
the way
it
there at the back.
You can see the effect on the paint job as well. It's getting a bit more rain droplets on it too, and the windscreen wiper is more furious. The spray starting to be kicked up again. So this will dissuade anybody that was thinking about switching to dry tyres. But all the same time, the wets are still worn down from that period where the track was easing towards sort of, there aren't really intermediates, especially for the GD3s. But we are sort of closing in on that. And in fact, you can now see Malguera in the background starting to lap our GD3 runners as well. So that's why he's losing a little bit of time to Pen and Petty, because he's the first on the road that has to deal with all of these GD3s tucked in together then, as the weather conditions are not improving. And wide goes one of the Lexus cars there. Oh dear, so Palumbo was right behind Vianney, and he's now lost a bit of time there, and could well fall into the clutches of the VGI Mercedes behind. Is that, I'm not sure who that is. Van Ginneken, of course. Yeah, there we go. I think they changed it from Van to VGI, which is what threw me off there. Is now Malguera up the inside of Zitello, so he's going to split up this battle ever so slightly, but he really does not want to trip over any of these GD3 leaders here, because that carefully built-up lead could evaporate in an instant if he damages the car here.
I believe you actually raised a very good point. The tires, these wet tires are very soft in terms of compound. And the reason why they work so well in the wet is because they're grooved. And if that groove gets damaged, usually it means just normal wear, but usually that can be increased or even fastened by, well, not fastened, this is sped up, I mean, by running a little bit in the dry. And this is the reason why you would see some of the cars going to find and to look for wet patches on the straights, because they wanted to cool the tires down and prevent from wearing them. But yeah, like you could see that this definitely is not going to be easy.
Little move for the lead from Ricciardiello there, right as Pen is arriving on the scene, and he gets blocked by the two leaders. That's going to allow Malgera to build up another second or two. He's round the outside, attempts, that's Rabiti, I think, having to go at Canton on the exit of Luffield as through goes Bortolin. And we're going to see Rokon arrive round the outside. He's almost going to have to go off track there. Yeah, there's so much spray. It's difficult to see who's who as they go into Cop's corner again with 57 minutes left on the clock. A little bit of a move side by side there. You can really sense Canton under pressure here as he desperately tries to keep Rabiti and Zitello at bay. It did look briefly like Canton might have had a go at Ricciardiello there, but Ricciardiello is kept with Sequeira. So you saw that sequence begun at the arena section through Village and the Loop, where Malgera lapped Sequeira. And off goes Bordelin. Bordelin has dropped it on the exit of Chapel there. Oh dear, that's a podium gone for sure. So Rokon up to third. Did Bordelin just trip up on his own, I think?
Yeah, unfortunately we couldn't see what happened, but I can only imagine there was a problem with either a lap car or even just on himself. Maybe
I think he made it through everybody apart from the top two in GD3. So I think it's more likely he just dropped it on the curb.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the cars, the top two in GD3, they don't seem to have damage anywhere. So for sure, yeah, he must have just been a little bit too eager on the throttle out of the Maggots, Beckett's, and Chapel complex.
Yeah, it's real 0-0 stuff for Bortolin, isn't it? After his brilliant defensive drive to P2 in Bahrain last week. Now he sees himself 11 seconds down with a presumably
Brewski. Brewski completely missing the braking spot into Village.
Yeah, this Cadillac a bit more forceful than expected, I think, in these conditions as he sort of muscles Simone Rabidi out the way there. And Rabidi now, that gives Canton a bit of breathing space then. Brewski catches Canton down the Wellington straight, and again he's going to be blocked at the apex by Ricciardiello, who has actually been quite lucky to stay with Sequeira in all of these hypercars lapping them. It's lucky they've only got 6 to deal with, although I guess they'll have Bortolin catching up to them again before too long after his spin there.
Yeah, make that 7.
It feels like there's double the amount of hypercars, the amount of times these GT3s get lapped, even in wet conditions there. Sequeira again, this time is lapped on the straight leading into Copse, the old pit straight that used to be used all the way from 1948 to about 2009, if I'm not mistaken, when they sort of changed the track, built the new set, 2010, I should say.
It is still being used because this track is from the ELMS version, where they use this one. And I believe this is because they have more, I want to speculate, but I think it's because they have more pit garages, or garage spots, I should say, in the old pit lane.
Yeah, Suave now laps our two leaders, but you can see Ricciardiello had a little bit more confidence through Maggots, Beckett's, and Chapel through that fantastic high-speed section. Even in the wet, especially in the wet, actually it's much trickier than in the dry, but even in the wet, it's a fantastic high-speed change of direction. And you can now see Ricciardiello lining up Abel Sequeira here. So is this just a case of Abel Sequeira trying to get these wets to go a bit further in the stint so he can pit at the last possible moment in the race, maybe with, let's say, 30 or 40 minutes left to go, rather than the typical sort of, halfway through the race sort of pit stop? Or is he trying to do something a bit more radical here? Ricciardiello nearly crashes into the back of him there. You can see the air temperature down to 7 degrees, the track temperature 12 degrees Celsius. So yeah, definitely we are in the middle of winter in November, in the end of November. So the weather conditions definitely reflecting that here at Silverstone. You can see Bortolin making attempt number 2 at lapping the GD3 field in the background there. But this is very, very tense for Sequeira. I think he genuinely might be in trouble here.
Yeah, he probably is. I mean, as Gandossi actually sends it on Ramada for P11 now.
Yeah, I think Ramada was behind, so here he goes up the inside at Aintree.
That's true.
Retakes the position off of Gandossi, who gets a little loose on the curb in these tricky conditions then. So the longer we go into the stint, the more those who are a bit harder on their wet tyres are really going to start to struggle for grip and potentially be forced into pitting maybe a lap or two earlier than they'd really want. Blue flag showing for Ricciardiello, as you can see the unmistakable sight of the pink and black car of Bortolin having to get through and being blocked a little bit. Cops taking the safer option to wait until the corner exit to lap Abel Sequeira there. So yeah, it is basically Russian roulette when you're lapping these GT3s in these conditions, especially in the case for Mattia Bortolin.
Yeah, I think Mariano Callo, as our broadcast director, really deserves a round of applause for that, because that looked really scenic. We could see Bortolin coming through in the rearview mirror of Ricciardiello, and then boom, just out of the old pit straight, which is actually the new pit straight in this case, because it's the only one that's being used. And that was a really beautiful scene.
Yep.
Going back to Sequeira, do you really think he's? Oh, I thought he was going to go into the old pit, the other pit. Do you think he's actually playing the strategy here, or maybe does he just?
On the curb at the club chicane and coming out of the final corner, Ricciardiello not quite close enough to get alongside, but look, he's backing the top three into him here, and this is not great for Ricciardiello, because through comes Canton round the outside at the first corner up Abbey, and not quite able to make it through. Nearly gets the long nose of that front bonnet of the Mercedes alongside into turn 2 at Farm. And look at this in the background. Rabiti is fancying a run. Oh, the rear tires drifting out. So the two Lexus cars are definitely overheating the rears a little bit. But yeah, I think Sequeira is genuinely... the BMW was so strong at the early part of the race, and I think he's starting to feel the pain of that, the amount of energy he put the tires through.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I mean, as soon as I said it, I was about to say, I think he's lacking pace, and the moment I almost said it, he lost the rear. So, yeah, I think he's definitely struggling now and feeling the pressure from the Lexus.
Nobody wants to do that extra pit stop or run out of tires at the end, essentially, is the other thing. So because the weather's so unpredictable, if it suddenly dries out again, you don't want to have to make a stop for wets too early and sort of commit yourself to that strategy, essentially. So that is why everybody's playing the waiting game. But the longer they stay out, the more tricky it's going to be, especially as the rain just increases and the tires are going to start to cry enough. We're pretty much approaching half distance, aren't we? That 45 minutes is essentially half distance here, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken. And Ricciardiello very, very close to the back of that BMW here. And it is a bit of a conga line then as they slid and slide their way through Maggotsberg Chapel again under the bridge down the hangar straight, which used to be used for an aircraft hangar, essentially where the planes would, and bomber planes especially, RAF Silverstone would come out during the World War II, essentially. And now it's used for a different kind of combat, more involving wheels than and only really front and rear wings, rather than aeroplane wings. Let's look at this. Canton to the outside of Ricciardiello. Is there going to be enough space for a move here? No. And Ricciardiello a little bit late on the brakes, but keeps his place in the queue behind Abel Sequeira, who is really just slugging around. You can actually see Zitello in the background is starting to catch back up again, but then there's a huge gap to Smith Adams, who has gotten his way past Nico Viani, interestingly, for that P6 battle between the two Aston Martins. And Ricciardiello again able to hold so much more speed in the Lexus through these first couple of corners. But again, Sequeira defends the inside, forces him the long way round, all deep on the brakes from Zitello in the background. That's not going to help the BMW. And you can see Canton here getting a bit impatient here. Oh, contact from Rabiti behind as well, as I think somebody was flashing their lights there.
Yeah, I think everyone just wants to lead at this point, and maybe Sequeira is the only one that's probably he really doesn't have the pace at the moment. I think Canton, Ricciardiello, Rabiti, they all look really strong now, and Sequeira has looked the worst so far.
Yeah, it's still somehow holding on to the lead by the skin of his teeth, though, which is fantastic to watch. You can see the virtual energy there. In Hypercar, Rocon on 50%, so 3% less than those around him. So Rocon might be forced into an earlier stop than Pen and Pede, who he's fighting with for that P2. They're very similar in terms of pace. As you can see, Canton again just trying to put Ricciardiello under pressure here as we cut back to Ramada, who is down in P11 behind Nicola Pagani then. So Ramada did make the move on Gandosi earlier, and he's trying to pick off the other Tamelli ERT BMWs. Ricciardiello again. This is the high-speed section, and this is where the Lexus cars really just look a little bit more confident than either the Mercedes or the BMW at this phase.
Yeah, so Ed, if my math from someone who hasn't finished school doesn't fail me, the halfway through would be 38.5. So because the race is 75 minutes long. Yeah.
Somebody's asking me if this is random weather or real weather. I can tell you the weather at Silverstone.
May as well be random.
Could be, yeah. I think it is random because it just says windy at Silverstone at the current moment. Oh, look at this. Up the inside. That is Ricciardiello having to defend from Canton again into the Vale chicane and club. So, yeah, Canton gets the better exit actually from Stowe on that sort of brief straight into Vale. But he's not quite able to really make anything of it. And if anything, it leaves him a little bit exposed to Rabiti behind as well. As you can see, Zitello desperately trying to push to catch back up. But it looks like Smith-Adams, if anything, is the one catching Zitello at this phase. So, yeah, both BMWs really struggling to keep it on the circuit.
Yeah, talking about the weather, I believe the way it works in here is they made the weather slots, because this is how it is in LMU at the moment. You have to divide weather into 5 different time slots basically. So if the race is only 1 minute, 1 minute, maybe not, 1 hour and 15-minute long, right? It would need to be divided into 5 slots, and this means that the weather changing is very rapid, very abrupt, and this is why potentially is why we're seeing so many the changes in weather. Like it looks like it's raining and it's not raining. But to be fair, this is absolutely realistic. So I'm all up for it.
Yeah, it does look it's stayed pretty rainy for a while now, hasn't it? So it's difficult to predict what these last 45 minutes are going to bring, whether the rain is going to continue or whether it could well dry out. Bortolin, unsurprisingly, of our hypercars, given that he was the one that spun off and nearly, I think he did hit the wall actually. Just on the exit of Chapel. He is the first to pit then. So he sort of had to do something different. So he's surely picking on another set of wet tires then. But look at Ricciardiello all over the back of Abel Square like a cheap suit here. And he is desperately trying to retake the lead that he briefly held early in this race ahead of Abel Square. So it's been such a close, tense fight between the two of them. Square has defended well, but Ricciardiello has definitely had his wits about him and is stuck with the BMW, not giving him a moment's rest. As we see a little mistake from Canton in the background. And that gives Ricciardiello that brief breathing space that he can sort of try a risky move and not have that Mercedes immediately behind him. But now Sequeira backs him up once again through the tight, twisty final chicane at the Vale. And now again, Ricciardiello just sees, it all backing up behind it, but a crucial mistake. It looks like Sequeira lost control over the curb on the inside through club, and that has given Ricciardiello the lead as Canton just finds the BMW in front of him at the wrong moment there. And there's a long stop for Borderline in the background, by the way, so he's gone a lap down. Up the inside goes Canton, and he takes P2. So Sequeira, the wets have finally died, I think, at this phase, and he has got nothing to fight with.
Yeah, and Rabizzi onto Sequeira all the way on the inside into Village, or the loop actually. This is called the loop. And he takes the P3. I think the floodgates have opened now. As soon as
nice metaphor there.
yeah, of course. As soon as Ricciardiello actually managed to go through Sequeira, he's basically shown all his weaknesses now, and he's losing pace, losing time, and losing positions as well.
Well, the problem is he got a little bit offline at the final corner. That allowed Ricciardiello through, and then he was just being barged out of the way by the others on the racing line. Look at those rear tires. They're absolutely cooked. Even Zitello now, and the similar BMW has kept them in line. And maybe it's just a case that Zitello was hanging back a bit more, whereas Sequeira, I think he really was hoping it would have dried out by now. And now he's sort of, because he didn't commit to the pit stop, he's now in this position where he's still got to stay out and make this strategy work.
He'll be screaming, "Where's my traction?" or "Donde está la mi tracción?"
I'm not sure. I only did a D at GCSE Spanish, but I'm not sure if that actually makes sense. But anyway, a couple of neocognates in there, but never mind. Okay, Traction. There we go. Again, Zitello trying to pick his moment here, but now he's stuck behind Sequeira. There's a second gap opened up between them and Rabiti in that final step of the podium, and you can see Smith Adams in the rearview mirror there, threatening, lurking menacingly out of the gloom in his Aston Martin there. So our local driver now has got P5 in his sights, potentially even P4 if he can pick off both BMWs in quick succession. Bortolin, this is a very long stop. He must have a lot of damage being repaired because I think he's about to go 2 laps down here. And we're not far off our hypercars. Potentially, there we go, coming out the pits now comes Bortolin. And he's, yeah, there we go. That looks like, is that Suave or
Suave.
Rokon? Yeah, it's definitely Suave. So he is, I think, 2 laps down on everybody then in hypercar, which is a big shame for him because...
He must have pitted twice, no?
Possibly, yes. I didn't see him coming out the pits, but I thought that was one just very, very long stop then to repair all the damage. So Bortolin has decided this is going to be more of a glorified testing session for him. He's not even put all of virtual energy in, if that's to be believed. He's only put 49% in to get to the end of the race. I guess it's doable, but could be a bit risky then as we go into nearly 40 minutes remaining now. And Nate Smith Adams has got that Virtual Drivers Alliance, the black and orange car of Zitello, in his sights. They're all very similar in virtual energy. Sequeira, unsurprisingly, has used the most, trying to hold on to the lead for as long as he could. But now he seems distinctly vulnerable. And Zitello, though, knows he's going to be losing time to the top 3 every lap. He stays stuck behind Sequeira, and he's got the threat behind us. In comes Sequeira. I think he's gone into the old pit lane entry there. So that is going to release both of them. And not a moment too soon, I think, from Salvatore Zitello's point of view.
Yeah, we'll have to actually look into extending the tower size because Smith Adams is actually the longest name we've ever seen. And,
well, it's because it's a double barreled, yeah. Did Sequeira miss the pit box there? He had to be pushed back slightly.
Yeah, he sure did.
It's a problem with braking in the pit lane. That's not always used in these conditions, is it? So you're not sure exactly where to pit. But yeah, he's the first GT3 to pit of the entire field. So it's going to be fascinating to see if the undercut works here. But he's sort of knowing that I think at this point it's likely it's going to rain all the way through to the end. He sort of knew it wasn't really worth staying out any laps longer.
I'm just surprised how much his tires fell off, though. Like, it's a really massive drop. Like, somehow he's the only one that's had that, and he's not the only one in the BMW. So, very, very peculiar situation going on here with Sequeira. As I think it was Vianney on Palumbo.
Oh, yeah, they did look very close there.
What was that? No, sorry. It was Smith Adams on Zitiello.
Yeah, there we go. So Smith Adams, a tenth behind and really pushing for what is currently P4. You can just see he's was looking up the inside, flashing his lights at Salvatore Zitello. So Zitello, far from being unleashed, now sees the Aston and start to come into its own here and give him a lot of trouble. We also got a message from Bortolin as all around the outside comes Smith Adams. That's bold. He's trying to get the inside for the loop here, and he's able to take it. There we go, found the grip on the outside there. That was a brilliant move from Nate Smith Adams, and the local driver up to P4, and now he's got to chase that 2.7 second gap to the Lexus and Mercedes cars in front of him that make up the podium trio at the moment.
As Smith Adams, sorry, it's really hard to say, I'm sorry. As he tries to go on the inside to defend the inside from Zitello. You're absolutely right. I mean, Zitello looked so poised, in the position where he could just take advantage from Sequeira getting out of the way. But now, no, it's definitely the Brit that has been, as Penipedi goes through them, it's definitely the Brit has been, he's been sitting there chilling, some would say, and now he's just unleashing the actual pace.
I think, yeah, he's definitely just kept the wets alive a bit longer for this moment then, where Zitello is sort of starting to run into the same problem that Abel Sequeira did, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe not as severely, and it has taken longer, but yeah, and it's funny because I just said it. I said I'm surprised that the other BMW of Zitello wasn't really feeling any of these issues that Sequeira went through. And somehow, there you go. Now he's got him too.
Looks like Andrea Gendosi has dived into the pits this lap as well. So it'll be fascinating to see where he comes out. Sequeira is P15. He should be about to go up to P14.
Must be a BMW issue then.
Yeah, definitely these conditions starting to play against him. In the early phases, it did look very, very strong when it wasn't raining that hard and was starting to dry out. And I think that change in the weather, the rain coming back, has really played against all of them. We also did get a comment from MXTTY_97, which I assume is Bortalin, because he says my steering wheel disconnected 2 times. That would explain why he had such a long pit stop then, and also why he crashed out in the first place then. So definitely not his fault if the hardware let him down essentially and stopped functioning as it should. As we ride on board with Rabiti, nearly hits the back of the Iron Dames Mercedes, Iron Lynx, sorry, Mercedes in front of him there. And yeah, definitely looks like our top 3 all starting to close up together. And yeah, Smith-Adams gaining a couple of attempts actually on this lap. That Aston is really, really good through the twisty stuff, especially through the loop and village. It's so much more grip than Zitello, who's starting to drop at the moment. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Aston can keep this pace up, especially if Canton starts to really struggle and start holding up Simone Rabiti here. And Ricciardiello is not doing that much stronger than Demiva, only 7 tenths to the good at the moment.
Yeah, despite of the looks, this the Lexus is very nimble, very agile through the through chicanes and changes of direction. So I'm not completely surprised that Rabiti is right there, but definitely, you know, looking at Ricciardiello trying to pull away, it is a very good car to have in the way.
Yeah, certainly is. And yeah, certainly the Lexus is one of the more popular cars at this phase of Le Mans Ultimate in the game cycle, I guess we should call it, where there's a lot of drivers that are joining GT3 and just deciding, oh, let's try the Lexus because it's one of the newer cars, and it's also pretty handy in sort of mixed conditions, and it tends to give the driver a lot of confidence on turning, as we see the Mercedes here, Canton really struggling a little bit on exit there, but it tends to have pretty decent top speed, the Mercedes, and I think that's sort of saving it at the moment in this battle. Once he starts to get the revs down, he's able to pull a little bit away from Rabiti, and that helps him defend that position essentially. But yeah, as we see in the background, Zitello is not exactly letting Smith-Adams escape. The gap's staying about 2 or 3 tenths per second, but they're both starting to close in on the top 3 little by little. The gap 2.6, 2.5 seconds at the moment, so it's sort of staying about stationary. But these are going to be the crucial laps because we are also looking at Sequeira in P13, 1.4 seconds by Mantis Ricus, isn't it, in 12th, and another Lexus. So if Sequeira starts getting held up, that could play into the hands of our podium trio. But if he's able to gain ground on potentially fresh wet tires as well, then that could actually allow him to undercut, even if these guys ahead don't have to put in as much fuel when they make their stop, of course.
Well, you say Zitello is sort of keeping up. I think he is, but he's mostly gaining on the straights on that Aston of Smith-Adams. He seems to be a little bit more, a lot faster. Oh, as I say, it just goes wide. Usual commentator's curse. Acting in full force right there. I want to see now if Zitello pulls into the pits.
Oh, and they're actually starting to see the Symphony Sports pink drivers being lapped as well by our top 3 as we cut back to Pagani. Right behind this is Frank van Ginneken in the other Mercedes then, who is starting to defend that 8th position rather well, as here's Zitello. They've just let Brzuski by in the Cadillac, and Salvatore Zitello keen to get sweet revenge, or street justice, as you might say, on Smith-Adams here, as we see the Lexus Symphony Sports Pink getting out of the way. I think there was 3 of them that are filling out the final 3 positions here, so they're all, none of them feeling particularly confident, I think, in these conditions. I think Ilaria Finn in 14th is the highest place of the Symphony Sports Pink junior squad at the moment in this particular race, as here comes Suave now in his Symphony Sports Ferrari, looking to lap Zitello and Smith-Adams. Going around the outside, he flashes his lights to let them know that he's there, and they leave just enough room there. Always very, very difficult to judge, especially if you're in Smith-Adams' position as well. I think, is that somebody who spun it? Oh, is that Suave? Oh, dear. I was about to say Suave had actually judged that very, very well, but he's judged it into the grass and spun. Very easy to do in these conditions, of course, but that has given Brzuski a huge advantage now.
Yeah, we should just hold off on giving out compliments and.
I did, and lucky I did because, yeah. But I wanted to at least come across as a goodwill towards Federico Suave for keeping up with Brüschke in that fight for P4 up to that point. It's just a shame that particular one ran against him. But I'm sure Bortolin will be at least saying, oh, I might have someone to fight with now. Suave's lost a bit of time there, but he didn't seem to hit the wall crucially, so or have a wheel disconnect. So I think Suave just had a bit of driver error there. Nonetheless, our GT3s, it just feels like we've just mainly been watching the GT3s, and the hypercars have sort of cameoed occasionally in the background as they come through to lap them. But yeah, Malguera in the front, leading by 13 seconds with 30 minutes left to go on the clock. Pede has actually done a pretty solid job of keeping him roughly in sight here, but we'll have to see how much. And yeah, virtual energy is about the same between the two, so Rokon should definitely be the first of our hypercar leaders at least to pit, even if Bordelin has already done his pit stop and should be good to go to the end. As Zitello all trying to make a move into Copse, but finding the inside line, the apex, completely blocked off by the Aston in front of him. Smith Adams actually starting to get more defensive now as they drop a couple of attempts away from our top three here, and it does look like Ricciardiello is pulling a gap on the Mercedes of Canton as well here, as here comes Bordelin to lap our 4th and 5th place drivers in GT3.
Yeah, Bortolin's still going, which is very commendable from him.
Well, it's good as well. There's only 6 hypercars, so it'll be a bit embarrassing
that's true.
to lose any of them.
That's true. It would, no, but that's also in points paying position, so it kind of makes sense, right? You're not completely out of the fight, so you may as well finish the race. I want to also talk about Paolo Benipede because what a race he's done so far. What a race.
Yeah, and these are tricky conditions as well.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the BMW is a better car than the Ferrari in the wet. Also, Bortolin seems to have hardware issues as well with the wipers because we cannot see where he's going.
Nah, he just remembers roughly where it is and just listens out for the GT3 cars, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that might be a visual issue on our end, potentially, not Matthew Bortolin forgetting which button controls the wipers, or having the wheel disconnect and then the buttons remapped so he doesn't know which one is the wipers. But yeah, nonetheless, I think it might actually be set to automatic when it starts raining, if I'm not mistaken, in some cases. But
well, yeah, you can set it manually if you want. You can set it so
Whoa.
you are the one triggering. Oh,
it's a bit wide from Zitello onto the grass at Aintree there on the exit of the loop then. So yeah, that's the problem when you're following closely to the car in front. The conditions getting worse, and these guys are all yet to pit, of course. We did see a comment in the chat from Gardinetto, who asked, what's Sequeira's pace after pitting? Well, he's gotten ahead of Mantas Rikas and pulled about 5 seconds, and he's about 9 seconds by Manuel Norris then. So the paces look pretty strong from Sequeira, but it's just a matter of where does he filter out here. As Bortolin is making yet another stop here, so clearly all is not well in that Ferrari.
yeah, that's true, for sure. He's maybe he's calling it quits. No, I don't think he would. I don't think he would. I wouldn't for sure in these conditions. I think I would just try and go to the end for respect.
It could be he's having more wheel issues that he's having to sort out then.
Yeah,
yeah, lucky that's not happened through Maggots, Beckers and Chapel in the wet. So yeah, not an ideal race to have problems in. I don't think there's any race that's ideal to have the wheel completely disconnect on you, but this would not be the one you pick given the choice.
Pretty sure you need the wheel to drive.
Yeah, it's a crucial step. Also, the brakes and the throttle do help as well, along with the gear shift. But yeah, here's Nicola Pagani then, who is still chasing Frank Van Ginneken. And yeah, the Mercedes, both Mercedes cars have actually defended a lot better than I expected in this race. So certainly that's all credit to the drivers there. As you can see, Van Ginneken, yeah, it's good that they're not diving into the new pit lane there because it is blocked off by cones. And I think even a wall as well to stop them using it, period. So that certainly helps. But yeah, Nicola Pagani is
practiced.
I do sort of feel like Pagani, having gained a couple of places early on, wasn't it Gandosi, sorry, that was the one gaining places, and then he had that early pit stop. So maybe he was using a bit more virtual energy in the first stint. And now him and Sequeira are sort of in similar situation where they're 44 seconds off the lead. So it could be close for Sequeira. I think definitely it's going to be close with the podium positions, which is roughly where he was when he pitted. He was right ahead of Zitello and Smith Adams, wasn't he? So
I mean, yeah, the time left is 28 minutes, so for sure they're not going to top up. I mean, all the drivers that haven't pitted yet. Oh, I see Bruschi doing like a full lock all the way into Chapel. I believe it's a bit of a problem with the display that we have right now. I don't think he's actually driving like this.
Is it a understeery Cadillac?
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, more like it's less like Cadillac's hypercars and more like one of their lowriders that understeers like a truck essentially. But yeah, nonetheless. Yeah,
no, but I'm sorry. As I was saying, I mean, I'm looking at the gap, 44 seconds. He's not going to be too far off from P1. I don't know if that's enough.
Yeah, Van Ginneken pits as well. Yeah, so that releases Pagani. So yeah, I wonder if any of these GT3s are thinking about trying to go to the end without stopping. It would be bold, but I think when we get to 20 minutes, 15 minutes, pretty much everybody's going to have to rush in because the tank literally, even in these conditions, it's very, very difficult to get the fuel and virtual energy to last. And we know if you go over on the virtual energy, it's a 100-second penalty, which could be hugely race deciding, essentially, if you risk it either before the stop or even at the end for those thinking about it. Smith-Adams has saved the most virtual, Vianney, sorry, has actually saved the most virtual energy. So I think Vianney will be the one to watch in terms of trying to do the non-stop. But even so, the wet tires are going to be absolutely finished. And it does look like the rain has stopped now as well, interestingly. So these final 26 minutes, if the conditions improve, it could be an absolute godsend for those who haven't pit yet, because we might just get into dry tire territory if the track conditions transform quickly. But at the moment, still a lot of standing water and spray to deal with.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. It might dry up.
Yeah, me neither. That's just wishful thinking.
that would be heartbreak for Seketa for sure, because he would be all the way into P11. I think that the track might dry up, but it won't be in time to go on slicks by the time they finish, they run out of virtual energy.
This is Luca D'Amico fighting with Eleonora Gabaglia, who is one of the Symphony Sports Pink drivers in 16th place. He's got his teammate, is that Ilaria Finn, potentially? I think just up the road, or is that somebody else as well?
I think it's Lucrezia Milanese, P15.
It's Milanese, yes,
P16,
there we go.
sorry.
And D'Amico, I think these are all drivers yet to pit, if I'm not mistaken, or if they have pit, it's not shown on the timing tower. But yeah, D'Amico looking up the inside then as they go into... It was Ilaria Finn, I was right the first time. There we go. Yeah. Oh, very, very wide from Garbaglia as he just has a sort of straight line the chicane, but that's going to compromise his exit here. The Lexus starting to run out of grip. D'Amico gratefully goes through, goes a little wide himself, but able to keep the speed and momentum out of club that final corner, and that's going to stop the Lexus going around the outside at Abbey then. So yeah, D'Amico in the BMW getting up a position as we cut back to Zitello. Closer than he's looked in a long while on the back of Smith-Adams, but Smith-Adams desperate is Nate Smith-Adams not to lose that P4 at this phase of the race. So he's going to defend against Zitello quite hard. They're still not that far away from our top three. Still about 3 seconds adrift as Smith-Adams goes a little bit wide on the entry into Vale. And Zitello is going to start licking his lips here because he has somehow kept in play and kept the tyres alive a lot longer than we saw Sequeira was able to do in the first stint. Still a lot of standing water and sprays you see on board with Rokon, who is really caught up to Pen and Pede, who is starting to really drop off the back of Malguera in this phase of the race here. So Rokon and the Ferrari looks like it's in a better shape with its tyres than the BMW, or he's just dealing with the traffic at GT3s a lot better than Pen and Pede is at the moment.
I have to apologize on behalf of Ed, but of course the Simfrim Pink cars are all driven by girls, by women. So
that's true.
Yes. Yes. So he actually said he, but yeah, it's absolutely fine. Yeah, it's absolutely fine.
I think it was a mixed lineup last season, if I remember correctly. Yes, so that's why I got a bit confused. But you're right.
There's two things that are certain in life, and that's taxes and the Simfrim in the ERS championship, for sure.
That's true. That's true. Zitello gearing up for another run. Rokon, that's the frustrating thing of him. He's catching Pen and Petty, but the fuel tank's nearly empty here in terms of virtual energy. He'll have to pit if not this lap, the one after, and he's within about 4/10 of Pede. Right behind him on the road as there comes Margera through the lap, and Zitello's trying to make the move. That's nearly 3 wide there, and Margera just avoids disaster, but Zitello is very, very keen not to let Smith Adams get away with that mistake there.
Wow, that was so risky for Margera. I think Zitello didn't see him, or maybe saw him right at the last moment, as Margera actually had to put 2 tires into the grass, which luckily isn't as deadly as it is in real life, but still dangerous.
Yeah, certainly. And again, Zitello looks up the inside into Stowe. And yes, Smith Adams actually been quite sensible to stick to the racing line and then turn across the front to prevent any attempt there. Knew that he had just enough of a gap on Zitello, and that the Aston would have enough grip to make that corner there. As we cut to Rokon, who is surely heading towards the pit lane. He's got 5%, less than 5%, I think, of virtual energy left. As Zitello similarly all over the back of Smith Adams here. And you can see our 2 leaders going down to 10% as well in LMGD3. So everybody's going to find their hand a little bit forced here. I think Vianney on 16% could be really interesting, because 22 minutes to go. Could he get to the end? I think it's really if the wets can last is the bigger question, because I think he might, the way he's driving, certainly is conservative enough to get the fuel to last. But I don't know if the tires are really going to take this kind of abuse.
No, I genuinely don't think you can go to the end with this much virtual energy. If you wanted to do it, you probably would have to save so much and losing so much time as well. So I think...
Good defending there. Sorry.
No.
I didn't want to cut across you, but yeah, Nate Smith Adams defending really, really well. Quite early at the inside down the Wellington Straight, and then forcing Zitello to go the long way around through Brooklands and Luffield there. So very, very intelligent driving. Unfortunately, it's starting to drop them off the back of the top 3. And if anything, this is starting to play into Sequeira's hands a little bit, who is only about 4 seconds behind Manuel Norris at the moment. Zitello goes wide at Copses. Rokon does have to pit, as I predicted, at the end of the lap there. So Pede will breathe a sigh of relief, and now he knows he's got to extend this stint so that he can essentially overcut, put a bit less fuel than Rokon, and hope that that gives him the gap that he needs.
Yeah, Rokon in the pits. I'm genuinely curious about Zitello's track record, not track records, but records of track limits. I've seen him run off the gray stuff a lot, and I wonder how lenient the game is, especially in wet conditions, when you put 4 wheels off the track.
Yeah, I think it depends, really. Look at this, Zitello going up the inside into Vale. He's got the front end alongside the Aston, but he'll have to go the long way around through Club there. And he noticed there that Smith Adams didn't get a great exit through Stowe. And this, all over the curb goes Zitello, and Pede, luckily not impeded too much. They're able to clear both of them relatively quickly then in his own race, but he's now 24 seconds behind Christian Margera, so that really shows you how much he's been struggling here. I think Rokon potentially, if he has a good phase, the final 19 minutes of the race and his pace is decent, he could be in a position to undercut Paolo Pede here. As we cut back to D'Amico, still fighting with Eleonora Garbaglia for her P16 here, that she is defending very convincingly here. And D'Amico, pretty experienced in ES on R Factor 2, but a relative newcomer like a lot of these drivers to Le Mans Ultimate. Then he gets the BMW alongside, and barges into the side of the Lexus, and they both lose control, and into the gravel they go. And big crash. Garbaglia is out, and I think D'Amico might not be far behind, as he also has a big crash with the barrier that completely wrecks the back end of the steering. Luckily, he's still got the rear wing and wheel attached. The same cannot be said for poor Eleonora Garbaglia, who I think was a completely innocent victim in that one.
Way too hopeful in that move on Eleonora. I genuinely don't know what was going on there. I think Garbaglia had a little bit of a poor exit out of the T1, but yeah, that's absolutely on D'Amico.
Yeah, Zitello goes into the pits along with Palumbo, interestingly. So we hadn't talked much about Palumbo. Him and sort of Vianney were in a similar part of the race, essentially, with each other. But Vianney, I think, it's saved a lot more virtual energy. And we're now also seeing another Lexus of that looks like
Lodrizzini.
Marco Lodi-Rizzini, of course, in the Carloni Racing Lexus, isn't it? Coming into the pits then. So it'll be fascinating to see, where does Sequeira come out? He's going to come out, just behind Zitello. There we go. That is quite telling then. That Sequeira was setting good pace, but Zitello has just been able to overcut by putting less fuel in and come out ahead of the Spaniard here. So the battle is not over yet. This could be a really interesting final 18 minutes as these two fight for what could potentially be P4, P5 in the net order of the race. Luckily, Sequeira did get out ahead of Palumbo.
We still have a yellow flag. I don't know if it's actually
that's
a
a
yellow
glitch.
flag or if
Because
it's
we had
another
this
glitch, yes.
Monza when we first did.
No,
I think. Oh, it's got back there. It's
she's
still
still there.
stationary on the exit of Maggots and Beckett's.
Well,
That's a fall on site because there's a rear wheel missing, so she's not going anywhere, is she?
in real life, this would be a bit of a tragic scene, but I mean, in a sim, I don't know what to think about it.
That's Rocon going around the outside of Abel Sequeira and Zitello, but Sequeira looks very, very fired up here. We also see Malguera pitting from the lead, so will Pen and Pere be able to go another lap as there's a Mercedes slowing right down in the background? Is that Van? Is that Van?
No.
No, it is Canton. There we go. So Canton has come to a dead stop at the
Did he run out
new
of
pit
fuel?
straight. Oh, he's out of the race. There we go. Potentially he was running the virtual energy, very risky, but Canton, while running in P2, has absolutely come to a grinding halt. Ricardiel has just met the pit entry, and so too has Simone Rabiti then. Sequeira is swarming all over the back of Salvatore Zitello like a swarm of angry bees here, and he is desperate to get the sting in, isn't he?
What a crazy 16 minutes it's going to be now for Zitello. Sequeira, maybe, you know, he's feeling probably a little bit more confident now. And you could see it. He's definitely going to go for a move on
And
Zitello.
this is holding up Sequeira in his battle against basically the top two now. As we see out of the pits comes Ricardiello. He should reassume the net lead in third, essentially. But where is Rabidi going to come out? Rabidi is also, I think, going to come out ahead of Zitello. Emmanuel Norris will be behind as he was before. And there you go. Rabidi quite a distance, 3-4 seconds then ahead of Salvatore Zitello and Abel Sequeira then. So Sequeira, by pitting early, has really lost out. Here's Rapidi's round! Oh my goodness, he's completely lost it on the first lap at the pits. Can he get it out the gravel and out the wall? Yes, he can. So good save, all things considered, but he rejoins. And Rabidi, where is he? He's still in fourth, just ahead of Rabidi now. And there's Sequeira too. So it's a freeway fight for essentially net second in the race, depending on what Smith Adams and Vianney do in these finals. Since Smith Adams, I think, is definitely going to have to pit this lap or the one after, but Vianney could go very long.
Maybe the tires cooled down a little bit during the stop, and somehow he got caught off. But very uncharacteristic mistake there. I've seen more issues there in the dry than in the wet, so very, very strange mistake there for Rabiti.
Yeah, look at Smith Adams, 1%. He surely got to come in this lap as soon as possible. Vianney on 5%. Ricardiel, I think, because he's not Ricardiel has not crossed the start-finish line since refilling the virtual energy. So, look at Smith Adams going a little bit wide. That pit stop can't come soon enough. You see the wipers acting again, so it has started to rain again. Nobody thinking about risking it, I think, on the dries. Everybody going for another set of wet. In comes Smith Adams. So Nico Vianney will retake the lead. Of course, did win a week ago, didn't he? But he's really been playing a bit of a waiting game in this race. He's going to try and stay out longer than anybody else. But Ricardiello is now going to go back up into P2. Magera, by the way, has re-emerged comfortably ahead of Michele Brocon, who has jumped Paolo Penimpede in the pit stops.
Yeah, when we saw the fight between Zitello and Sequeira, they actually Penimpede, which is the reason why I was about to say, but I couldn't really jump in at that moment. But for sure, that's what gifted the position to Rocon.
And certainly that mistake from Rabiti has opened it up for Nate Smith-Adams then. Comes out of the pits. Where is Simone Rabiti? There he is. So I think Smith-Adams is essentially now in a net P2 in the race, potentially, depending on where Vianney is. Vianney was behind, of course, but he is going to be able to go much longer on the field, so that should be a quicker pit stop for the other Aston Martin then. But this is looking pretty good for Nate Smith-Adams to finish on the podium in his first appearance at his home race in the pouring rain.
I mean, I can't really see the gap. Has Ricciardello already pitted? Because I
He
missed
has, yes. So Ricciardo is in a net lead, I think.
Yeah, so Vianney, definitely Vianney's going to finish behind Smith Adams, which is a crazy strategy by the Brit.
Yeah, it depends how quick Vianney's stop is, but I think you're right. Realistically, Vianney, best he can do is maybe he's going to come out in the middle of this fight we're seeing at the moment.
Which is,
yeah,
you still have to do the pit lane, which is about 20 seconds, so yeah.
Yeah, I think best he can hope for is maybe to come out right behind Sequeira and in front of Palumbo as well. Palumbo's not far behind, and neither is Pagani either. And Pagani has got quite a lot of virtual energy compared to those in front of him. Rabidi, though, has got the most of all. It's just a shame that he essentially sacrificed second position with that spin. A pretty unforced error on the exit of the pit lane, too, as we see all of our leaders. Penimpede put... didn't we see this in Bahrain as well? Penimpede's put the most virtual energy on compared to those around him, 40%. So he's overfueled the car at his stop, and that's why he's 7 seconds behind Rokon. Is Vianney?
No, he's in the pits again.
Oh, he is again. So maybe he's sped in the pit lane, and that has really cost Paolo Benimpede as Vianney comes in for his stop then, and that's going to hand Ricciardiello the lead.
Yeah, I think today we've learned a lesson, and that's undercutting in the wet doesn't really work, as Ricciardiello inherits P1 from Vianney.
Yeah, it could be close. Let's see. Smith Adams about 7 seconds behind. And there's Vianney. He's already on his way again. Of course, this drive-through penalty. There he is. It's surely going to be through goes Smith Adams. But Zitello, it could be quite close with him on exit as well. And in fact, as Rabiti just picked off Zitello. And in doing so, that's allowed Vianney to come out ahead of all of them. So, wow, very, very close here. And he's only about 1.4 seconds behind Smith Adams then. So this second place fight is absolutely insane. We've got Smith Adams just ahead of Vianney, who's just come out the pits, who's got Rabidi all over him, having just cleared Zitello. Zitello's under attack from Sequeira, and then it is Palumbo.
It's crazy what kind of endings we're going to get treated with in this EEC championship. It's insane.
Yeah, always seems to be GT3 that delivers the goods. Yeah. Has done it pretty much every race so far, isn't it? As we see, look at that. Zitello trying to have a go at Sequeira there to get back into P5 there, or P6, sorry. And Zitello just held at bay there. Sequeira held his nerve and keeps his place in the queue then as he tries to keep Simone Rabidi in sight then. Rabidi desperate to get back in front of Vianney and Smith Adams as well, but he's going to start running out of time in his final 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Palumbo, I think, was under attack in the background there. Might be a lapped car, I think, that he was fighting with there. But look at the lead. Marguerite's got nearly 41 seconds ahead of Michele Rokon, isn't it? As we see, a little bit of a move up ahead. That looks like Rabidi all over the back of Vianney then. Vianney, I think, got a bit distracted by Smith Adams, and that's opened the door. As Vianney goes well off track. And that is surely going to give Simone Rabidi a bit of a run. Yeah, Vianney lucky to get away with that one. The car doesn't always cooperate on that, and that's opened the door then for Abel Sequeira to make a dive, and he taps around Simone Rabidi at Brooklands. Oh dear, Rabidi's going to have...
Rabidi finds himself facing the wrong way for the second time. This time it was completely on Sequeira. Very optimistic into... You tell me what the name of the corner is.
Brooklands.
Brooklands, yes.
There we go. But yeah, that was, as you say, pretty optimistic. I think Sequeira misjudged it on the brakes. You see Zitello actually starting to struggle and fall into the clutches of Palumbo here. So Palumbo, all of a sudden, from hanging back, has become part of this battle with that big spin there. It's absolutely played into his hands. And you can see there Palumbo is also himself has got recovering Rabiti closing up to the back. It's his teammate at Simframe, of course. So we've got Ricciardiello controlling the race, but behind it's anybody's game really. Vianney somehow holding on to P3 and all the craziness there after that massive off track at Aintree, but that has taken the pressure off of Smith Adams. The gap 2 seconds now, and even Sequeira, I think, has lost a bit of time to Vianney himself as well.
I guess Rabiti only has to blame himself for finding himself in that position after that mistake.
True, but he didn't exactly ask to be spun around there by
for sure. But
Sequeira.
I guess if you don't spin the first time, you don't get spun the second time.
True. I mean, there's that 8-second gap between Smith Adams and Ricciardiello that was basically made for Simone Robidi, especially after Canton had that issue. We still don't know exactly what happened. It could have been that he ran out of fuel, or it could have been that he had some kind of technical issue, which I think is probably the more likely thing, because I think he had a couple of laps more. He was pretty equal, Ricciardiello, in terms of virtual energy, so I don't think he was particularly in danger of running out of fuel at that phase. It's just a bit unfortunate, really. As we see Palumbo trying to work with Robidi. This is a tricky situation because Palumbo's been waiting for his chance on Titele, and now suddenly a very fired up and angry looking Simone Robidi wants a chance for basically revenge to get back up the order and closer to Sequeira then, as we look at the peerless Christian Malguera, who is continuing to outdo himself, winning by bigger and bigger margins, it seems, every single race. Is there anybody I guess with the Pastore brothers only doing Monza, it doesn't feel like there's anybody that can really hold a candle to the pace that Malguera has shown in all conditions, at all tracks. We thought Silverstone might be a bit of a level playing field, especially with the rain as well, on a track that's fairly new to the game, but Malguera is a fast learner, if nothing else, and has been able to get on top of everybody very, very quickly. And that is an ominous sign, I think, when we go back to endurance racing, of what Malguera will be able to do in his stints for the Door Esports team.
Yeah, I mean, he can do everything, right? He's fast in the dry, he's fast in the wet. That's the reason why.
And he's good at dealing with traffic too, as we've seen. He's very good at picking his battles. So when he sees the GT3 guys bunched together in that first stint, he lost a little bit of time, but he actually played it very smart, very clean. And in the end, Pede sort of ran into his own troubles as the race went on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why he got picked up by Door Falcon Esports. Like he's definitely right now, as you said, peerless, absolutely peerless in EEC, but I would wager he would be very fast pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I'd love to see him against similar hypercar drivers like Arda Erchan, who won the most recent VMS Platinum Split Round, Michi Hoyer, who's achieved a lot in his sim racing career, all part of that same team as well. So and Sven Gielhed as well, of course, the Dutchman, who's another up-and-comer in the world of sim racing. I think we've actually may have seen Sven Gielhed do a couple of back in the day for Team Iris. I think he used to drive there for the hypercar team in EES. But anyway, back to Van Ginneken, who is all over the back of the Carloni Racing Lexus of Margolano Rizzini. Nearly hits the back of him there, does Van Ginneken. So he's another of our drivers that's tried to half and half the race rather than extend that first stint. And he's desperately trying to get into the top 11. So Lodi Rizzini and Manuel Norris are the two that block his path into the top 10 here. So Van Ginneken, who's had his moments, he's certainly been very consistent this season, isn't he? On the verges of the top 10 every race, it seems. He's still got 5 minutes in which to put together a banzai move, but he's getting very, very close. We've seen how easy it is to get it wrong, and especially with this close fight, these two tucked right together in front of him, it's so crucial not to slip up, quite literally, in these final 5 minutes.
Yeah, Van Ginneken left orphan, of course, in this race by Canton, who we still don't know what happened to him. We saw him pull off in the what is actually the F1 straight. And,
the Hamilton straight, yes.
The Hamilton straight.
Yeah, he seemed to have an issue going through club, and then he pulled right to the inside. So yeah, I think he was right ahead of Robidi at that point. So that was the only good luck Robidi had. He was able to spot what was happening in time and pull to the outside without hitting the back of the Mercedes as it slowed to a crawl.
But yeah, for sure, it'd be interesting to know, and maybe someone can tell us in chat, or afterwards we can maybe report it for the next round.
Yeah, certainly no sign of Canton or anybody in the know so far, but maybe we should check the Discord somewhere and see if anybody has mentioned anything. Nope. Oh, no. Davide Canton just says, it really seems to me like my championship is cursed. Okay, so we don't get an explanation. We just get the curse explanation. So there we go. Certainly bad luck, and it doesn't sound like it was Davide Canton's fault from that.
Yeah, exactly. I think this rules out the fact that he actually ran out of fuel, as I initially thought.
Hey, you had to go with your gut. I went with someone running out of virtual energy when they'd actually been disconnected from the lead quite memorably at the end of the last VMS round that I commented on. Look at Van Ginniken, the rear tires absolutely complaining, and this is the problem with pitting early, especially now as it's ever so slightly starting to dry. You can see there Manuel Norris, pulling a bit more to the inside and throwing up more spray than those that stick to the racing line behind them. Interesting, though, I'll tell you what has been happening. Pede is 1.76 behind Bruschi, so his pace compared to Bruschi has been absolutely amazing, because he was about 8 seconds behind him, I think, after the pitting for that drive-through penalty. And now suddenly he's caught right back up to that final spot on the podium. So we could see Paolo Pede, or at least recover a little bit of wounded pride here and overtake Bruschi in that Cadillac. As in comes Sequeira. This is a very unplanned stop.
That's a drive-through. That's a drive-through for the contact. I was about to say it.
So there we go. Justice for Rabiti then. But yeah, Abel Sequeira.
Yeah, obviously, the contact into what is Brooklands, you tell me. There was a contact with Rabiti, I want to remind you. Again, very, very hopeful move. Really, I guess he just got impatient. He thought, let's go forward. It's only 8 minutes left. And let me say another thing. Race direction, very fast with dishing out penalties.
And an uncharacteristic drive overall from Abel Sequeira, given that he's been so strong in the other races. It really felt like he started the race so well, and then everything seems to have gone against him. Not least that clumsy mistake.
Maybe he's the kind of driver that just likes to sit back, but when he has to take the claws out, he struggles. Maybe
there wasn't really a lot he could have done strategically in this one as well.
Yeah,
Look at the Cadillac, Bruschi panicking because he can see Pede catching him. Luckily, before they get to Stowe, he's got these free GD3s in the way of the BMW there. So Paolo Pede will be very, very keen to clear them all as quickly as possible. He has to thread the needle between them. He's still going to have Manuel Norris in the way. Oh, there we go. And Lodi Rosini still alongside. So Lodi Rosini is desperate not to leave the door open for a very fired up looking Van Ginniken behind him, and that's to the detriment of Pede, who on the final lap of the race has lost a crucial amount of ground to Bruschi. So it's going to have to be a monster final lap or a big mistake from Bruschi that decides that podium. But Christian Malguera, what an excellent performance he's put together, and he's only got one more sector to go, and he is going to make it 4 out of 4 in these opening 4 rounds. And you have to look at the man in the turquoise and blue. He has been the pace setter, jumping ship from Simfrim to Dora Esports, and he's only gotten stronger since that change, it must be said. Despite everything the weather had to throw at him, he has been exemplary. Michele Rocon, his former teammate, 44 seconds in arrears. The gap's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. His confidence getting bigger and bigger. The smile on his face widening all the way. He comes through the final corner, out of the gloom, and Malguera.
That's not the final corner.
It is. No, you're right. That's not. That's the new. That's the old. That's the new start-finish line.
That goes in the yearly reel for you.
There we go. So that was just a warm-up practice with Malguera, though. As I think you're about to add, he has put together a wonderful drive. As you see Pede, oh, he has just started the final lap now.
Yeah, you take it away. I think this is the Wellington Straight, I believe it's called.
There we go. Just a few more corners to go. So this is the final sector now. Yes. Under the bridge goes Christian Malguera. And, well, the number 44 is almost going to win by 44 seconds. But Michele Rocon, I think, starting to just rally a little bit and close the gap ever so slightly. But out of the Luffield for the final time, through Woodcut he cuts, and Christian Malguera makes it 4 from 4 out of the spray and into victory lane for the 4th time in a row this season. Nobody can stop Christian Malguera, and there is going to be our potential GD3 winner, Alessandro Riccardiello.
More than potential.
Yeah, he's going to take his first win, I think, of the season, as Pede is right behind Bruschi then, as they've only got one more sector to go. There's a bit of GD3 traffic in between. Oh, and Bruschi in the Cadillac nearly held up by the BMW in front of him. Pede goes to the outside of the loop.
Oh,
is he going to be... Oh, I think Pede had a little moment there. They're still side by side as they go at the exit of the arena section. Pede nearly forced onto the curb by Bruschi. Bruschi defending as hard as he can as Ricciardiello, I think, is on the run to the line now as Pede to the outside. But it is Ricciardiello that wins for the first time this season in the Lexus, and to the outside comes Pede. He's going to be forced the long way around. This is great defensive driving. Wheel to wheel stuff. No. And a massive bump in the side. That's a bit desperate from Pede. He tries to punt his way through. And nearly spins Bruschi around. At the final corner they come, and it is going to be Francesco Bruschi that just holds on to the podium, and Pede, well, he threw everything at it, but I think that drive-through was what really cost him in the end.
Absolutely. I've seen many races, and I think looking at the body language from Pede, I believe he was, upset at Bruschi for something we probably didn't even see.
Close finish there. That's Gandosi, I think, just finishing out of Norris, who beats Van Ginneken. So I think Marco Lodi Rosini did get passed by Van Ginneken for the P11 in the end. There's Lodi Rosini just coming through after finishing the race. I think Mantas Rikas will be our final finisher on the road. There is the Polish driver. We've not talked too much about it. I think Sequeira did pass him at one point on his strategy. But yeah, Abel Sequeira is going to be a disappointing man. Mantas Rikas gets it home in P13. We'll be reasonably pleased with that. That's sort of about where I think he would have expected to be at the end of this one. But considering all the rain, only 3 retirements and all of them in the GT3 class, that is pretty surprising.
Yeah, very, very. Actually, I mean, maybe the driving standards haven't been crazy good, but I think overall we've been treated with a very good finish towards the end. I mean, you talked about it before. You complain. You said that it's only GT3s that we see fight. And
I wasn't complaining. I was just an observation because obviously Margera just dominates so much. Is the problem there? We did have a close hypercar finish for third, though. You're right.
That's true. I mean, we definitely need someone to put a bit of competition to Margera. That's what it is.
Let's recap then the final results. Christian Margera wins by 43.8 seconds, I think, in the end as he crossed the line ahead of Michele Rocon, who takes another second place this season. It is Bruschi that just holds on to third from Paolo Pede, and then we have got Suave and Bortolin, our final 2 finishes in hypercar in 5th and 6th then. So Bortolin, despite those, I think 2 or 3 wheel disconnects, did at least get to the end. Ricciardiello takes his first win of the season from Smith-Adams in P2. Great drive by Nate Smith-Adams. Him and Ricciardiello, I think 2 of the big stars of today. Nico Viani with also staying out longer than anybody else, got to P3 on the podium ahead of Salvatore Zitello. Luca Palumbo recovered to P5. A bit of a quiet race for Palumbo, and he really came alive right at the end there to beat Simone Robiti. Abel Sequeira, after serving the drive-through penalty for punting around, Robiti finishes behind him. Then it is going to be Nicola Pagani in P8, Andrea Gandosi in P9. Manuel Norris rounds out the top 10 just ahead of Frank Van Ginneken. Marco Lodi Rosini is 12th. Mantas Rikas is 13th. Then is Ditulio in 14th. Ilaria Finn 15th. Lucrezia Milanese in 16th. And Giovanni Paciello in 17th, with Canton, D'Amico, and Garbaglia all either crashing out in the case of the Valletta 2 or having a technical issue in the case of Davide Canton, who had actually driven very, very well up to that point. So then, that is the fourth round of the season in the books. Where are we going next, Daniele?
We're going to Qatar.
Ooh,
and just next 1 week time.
Yeah, there we go. An interest that could not be more of a contrast. If you didn't like the rain and prefer heat and sand, then the Middle East is the next destination in Qatar. Then very, very different circuit to Silverstone. But yeah, for a first visit to Silverstone in Le Mans Ultimate, I think that was absolutely fantastic racing to see. And my thanks to you and to Mariano Cano, Luis Gaspar, and Gianluca Scalvini then. So that's all from a wet and windy Silverstone. Congratulations once more to Christian Margera and to Alessandro Ricciardiello taking his first win of the season. Thank you very much for watching the 4th round, and we'll see you in a week's time in Qatar. Bye for now.
See ya.